The massive chamber of the Galactic Council gleamed with lights from 1,000 worlds. Representatives from across the galaxy sat in their designated seats, their forms ranging from the insectoid to the gaseous. At the center of it all stood a single human woman in a simple blue suit. Ambassador Sarah Chen held a datapad in her hands and tried not to show her nervousness. "The species calling themselves humans request membership in our council," announced the speaker, a floating, crystalline being whose voice echoed through translation devices. "Ambassador Chen, you may present your case." Sarah stepped forward. Behind her, a holographic display flickered to life, showing Earth and its solar system. "Thank you, honored members. Humanity comes before you in peace and friendship. We have achieved faster-than-light travel, established colonies on 7 worlds, and wish to join the galactic community." A rumbling laugh echoed from the left side of the chamber. High Counselor Thexnar of the Krathian Empire rose to his full height, nearly 3 meters of scaled muscle and armored hide. His species had conquered 40 star systems through military might. "Tell us, little human, what can your species possibly offer? What makes you worthy of sitting among us?" Sarah kept her voice steady. "We offer innovation, determination, and unique perspectives. Our technological development may seem slower than yours, but we have created solutions you might find interesting." She changed the holographic display. A human warship appeared, sleek and angular, different from the curved organic designs most galactic ships used. "This is our standard defense vessel. While we acknowledge our energy weapons and shields are less advanced than yours, we have developed alternative systems." Coordinator Luxiel of the Luminary Collective leaned forward, their glowing form pulsing with what might have been amusement. The Luminari were known across the galaxy as the technological masters, their science centuries ahead of most species. "Alternative systems? Please do enlighten us." "Kinetic accelerators," Sarah said. "We call them railguns. They use electromagnetic force to propel solid projectiles at extremely high velocities." The chamber fell silent for a moment, then erupted in chittering, buzzing, and vocal laughter. Thexnar slapped his armored thigh. "Railguns? You mean you throw rocks at your enemies? How delightfully primitive." Even Luxiel's glow seemed to brighten with mirth. "We used such weapons millennia ago before we discovered plasma projection and graviton beams." "You actually still use solid ammunition?" Sarah's jaw tightened, but she maintained her diplomatic composure. "These aren't simple projectiles. Our shipboard railguns can accelerate tungsten rods to 3% of light speed. The kinetic energy released on impact is irrelevant against modern shielding," Thexnar interrupted. "Any basic deflector array can handle kinetic impacts. You might as well throw stones with your bare hands." From a smaller seat near the back, a reptilian voice spoke up. Scoutmaster Vrix of the Vrexian Confederacy stood, his scales a muted green. The Vrexians were a minor species, often overlooked in council politics. "If I may, High Counselor, I have reviewed the energy readings from the human demonstrations. There are some unusual power signatures that might warrant what?" Thexnar cut him off. "Are you suggesting we should fear projectile weapons? Perhaps we should also fear swords and spears." Nervous laughter rippled through the chamber. Vrix slowly sat back down, his crest flattening in submission. Sarah noticed the exchange but said nothing. She had learned quickly that interrupting council politics was a mistake for a newcomer. The speaker's voice rang out again. "Ambassador Chen, your species shows promise in some areas. However, the council agrees that humanity is not yet ready for full membership. We grant you probationary observer status. You may attend council sessions and learn our ways, but you have no vote and no voice in our decisions." Sarah had expected this. Every report from human scouts had warned her that the galaxy's established powers looked down on newcomers. Still, observer status was a foot in the door. "We accept with gratitude, honored speaker. We hope to prove ourselves worthy of full membership in time." As the session ended and representatives began filing out, Thexnar approached her, his heavy footsteps echoing on the metal floor. Up close, he was even more intimidating, with scars across his scales and medals hanging from his military harness. "A word of advice, human. The galaxy is not kind to the weak. Your primitive weapons and soft words will not protect you. There are many species who view new worlds as resources to be claimed." Sarah met his eyes without flinching. She had grown up in the slums of New Shanghai, fought her way through university, and served in Earth's diplomatic corps during the colony wars. She knew predators when she saw them. "We appreciate the warning, High Counselor. Humanity has experience with those who mistake patience for weakness. Thexanar's laugh was harsh. Spirit, at least. That may keep you alive a little longer. As he walked away, Vrix approached more cautiously. The Vrexian glanced around to make sure no one important was watching. Ambassador Chen, please be careful. I have been observing your species' military exercises. Your weapons are more dangerous than the Council believes. Thank you, Scoutmaster, Sarah said quietly. But why tell me this? Vrix's crest rose slightly, a sign of concern among his people. Because the powerful species in this council have forgotten what it means to be threatened. They have grown comfortable, certain of their superiority. I have seen this before. It does not end well. Before Sarah could respond, Vrix hurried away, clearly not wanting to be seen speaking with her too long. Sarah gathered her things and prepared to leave the chamber. As she walked through the massive doors, she looked back at the rows of seats, the casual displays of power and dismissal. She activated her communicator. Chen to Earth Command. First contact complete. Status observer only. Recommendation. Continue Project Thunderbolt at maximum priority. They don't take us seriously. The response came through clearly. Understood, Ambassador. Admiral Rodriguez asks if they examined our weapon specifications. Sarah allowed herself a small, cold smile. They laughed at them, actually. Called railguns primitive. Apparently their shields make kinetic weapons irrelevant. There was a pause. Then good, let them think that. Chen, off the record, did they seem like the type to listen to warnings? Sarah thought of Thexnar's dismissive laughter, of Luxiel's glowing superiority, of how quickly Vrix had been silenced. No, Admiral. They're not the listening type. Then we prepare for alternatives. Safe travels, Ambassador. Sarah walked through the station corridors toward the human embassy section. Around her, aliens of 100 species went about their business, barely noticing the human in their midst. She thought about Vrix's warning, about the casual cruelty in Thexnar's voice, about the long history of humanity being underestimated. They had come to the stars hoping for peace, for friendship, for a place among the civilized species of the galaxy. Instead, they had found the same old story, the strong preying on the weak, might making right, and those with power refusing to listen to those without it. Humanity had played this game before. On Earth, they knew how it ended. The question was whether the galaxy would learn the same lesson Earth's old empires had learned the hard way. Sarah hoped they would never have to find out. But hope, as her father used to say, was not a strategy. And humanity had stopped relying on hope alone a long time ago. 18 months had passed since humanity received observer status. In that time, human colony ships had pushed further into space, establishing settlements on mineral-rich worlds in the Outer Rim territories. The colonies were small but growing, filled with farmers, miners, and families looking for new opportunities among the stars. The Krythian Empire had been watching these settlements with growing irritation. High Counselor Thexnar stood in his command ship's bridge, looking at the star charts with his senior military officers. His claws tapped against the display table in annoyance. These humans continue to expand into our designated expansion zone, he growled. They build their little colonies as if they have the right to claim unclaimed worlds. Commander Zarthuk, his most aggressive officer, stepped forward. Zarthuk was younger than Thexnar, but just as proud, his scales unmarked by battle scars because few enemies survived long enough to strike him. The territory is technically unclaimed, High Counselor. The Council has not granted the Empire exclusive rights to this sector. Thexnar's eyes narrowed. The Council does not need to grant us what we have the power to take. These humans need to learn their place. They were given observer status, not expansion rights. Take a battle group to their largest colony. Show them what happens when they overstep. Zarthuk's teeth showed in what passed for a Krythian smile. It will be done. Should we expect resistance? From humans? Thexnar laughed. They have no real military. A few patrol ships with primitive weapons. Make the demonstration clear but not too destructive. We want them afraid, not extinct. There is profit in frightened neighbors. 3 weeks later, 15 Krythian warships dropped out of faster-than-light travel above New Hebron, a human farming colony with 8,000 residents. The ships were massive, each one 3 times the size of the largest human vessel. Their hulls gleamed with ablative armor, and their shields shimmered with enough power to deflect any conventional weapon. On the colony below, alarms began to sound. Governor Martinez immediately opened emergency channels to any human ships in the area. This is New Hebron Colony. We have Crethine warships in orbit. Requesting immediate assistance. The response came within minutes. New Hebron. This is Captain Rodriguez aboard the UHSV Defiant. We're 12 hours out with 2 other ships. Hold tight. Commander Zarthuk broadcast to the colony on all frequencies. Humans of New Hebron, you have settled in Crethine space without permission. You have 1 planetary rotation to evacuate. After that, we will begin bombardment of your structures. Your people may leave, but your buildings and equipment will be destroyed. Governor Martinez responded, his voice shaking slightly. Commander, this territory is unclaimed under Galactic Council law. We have done nothing wrong. You have irritated the Crethine Empire. That is wrong enough. Begin evacuation. 12 hours later, Captain Marcus Rodriguez brought his small fleet out of FTL at the edge of the system. 3 ships, the Defiant, the Resolute, and the Steadfast. Against them, 15 Crethine warships waited in perfect formation. Rodriguez had served in Earth's Navy for 20 years, fought in the colony wars between human factions, and survived battles where he was outnumbered. But he had never faced alien warships before. Sir, they're hailing us, his communications officer reported. Put them through. Zarthuk's face appeared on screen, reptilian and contemptuous. Human captain, you are outmatched. 5 of our ships could destroy your entire fleet. Leave now or share your colonists' fate. Rodriguez kept his expression calm. Commander, under Galactic Council law, New Hebron is a legal settlement. We will not abandon our people. Then you will die with them. Zarthuk cut the transmission. The Crethine ships moved into attack formation. Rodriguez watched their approach on his tactical display. They were confident, even lazy in their movements. They had no reason to fear human weapons. The galaxy had made that clear. All ships prepare for combat, Rodriguez ordered. Execute Plan Mongoose. Target their lead vessels. Maximum range engagement. His tactical officer looked up nervously. Sir, at maximum range, their shields will be at full strength. Our missiles and lasers won't even scratch them. We're not using missiles and lasers, Lieutenant. Railgun batteries, load tungsten penetrators. Fire on my mark. The 3 human ships adjusted their positions, putting distance between themselves and the Crethine fleet. The Crethine commander noticed and seemed amused. Running away at such slow speeds was pointless. What Zarthuk did not know was that human railguns needed distance. The farther the projectile traveled through the vacuum of space, the more velocity it maintained. At close range, enemy ships could maneuver. At extreme range, they had time to accelerate their payload to speeds that would make the galaxy's physicists weep. Target lock confirmed, the weapons officer reported. Capacitors at full charge. Fire, Rodriguez said quietly. The human ships shuddered as electromagnetic coils released their stored energy. Tungsten rods, each one weighing 300 kilograms, shot from the railgun batteries at 3% of light speed. The projectiles were invisible to the naked eye, moving too fast for normal sensors to track properly. The Crethine fleet continued their approach, shields at standard combat strength. Zarthuk was watching his tactical display when his sensor officer shouted a warning. Commander, unidentified projectiles inbound. Velocity readings are... That cannot be right. What cannot be right? Zarthuk demanded. He never got an answer. The first tungsten rod struck the lead Crethine warship's shield at 9,000 kilometers per second. The shield, designed to absorb and deflect energy weapons, tried to push back against the kinetic force. It might as well have tried to stop a moon. The mathematics were brutal and simple. Kinetic energy equals 1/2 mass times velocity squared. At 3% of light speed, a 300-kilogram rod carried the energy of a small nuclear weapon. The shield collapsed instantly, overloaded beyond any safety margin. The rod continued through the ship's hull, through 3 decks, through the reactor core and out the other side. The ship exploded, then another, then another. The railgun volleys arrived faster than the Crethine could process what was happening. In 40 seconds, 12 of the 15 warships were destroyed or crippled. The remaining 3 vessels turned and fled, their faster-than-light drives engaging in pure panic. Rodriguez watched the debris field expanding on his screen. He felt no joy, only a cold certainty that everything had just changed. Get me a line to New Hebron. Tell them they're safe. Then he opened a channel to Earth Command. This is Captain Rodriguez. We engaged Crethine forces at New Hebron. Enemy fleet destroyed with no human casualties. Sending full combat data now. Admiral, they didn't believe the physics. Their shields couldn't handle the kinetic transfer. It was exactly like the simulations. There was a long silence on the other end. Then Admiral Chen's voice, tight with controlled emotion. Understood, Captain. You just started a war. Stay in system and fortify. We're sending reinforcements. Rodriguez looked at his crew. They were celebrating, hugging each other, laughing with relief and adrenaline. They were young, most of them. They did not understand yet what they had done. They had killed thousands of Krathian warriors in less than a minute. They had proven that humanity's primitive weapons could destroy ships the galaxy considered invincible. Within hours, news of the Battle of New Hebron spread across the faster-than-light communication networks. The Krathian Empire, humiliated and enraged, began mobilizing its full military. The Galactic Council called emergency sessions, and in 100 command centers across human space, officers looked at their railgun batteries with new understanding. The galaxy had dismissed humanity's warnings. Now they would learn why humans had survived their own brutal history. They had learned to turn simple physics into weapons of terrible efficiency, and they had tried to join the galactic community peacefully. The galaxy had chosen war instead. The Galactic Council chamber was in chaos. Representatives shouted across the floor while the speaker tried desperately to restore order. Ambassador Sarah Chen stood in the human observation section, watching the spectacle with a mixture of sadness and anger. Order. The speaker's voice boomed through the translation systems. We will have order. The noise gradually died down. High Counselor Thexnar rose from his seat, his scales darker than usual with rage. The humans have committed an act of war. They destroyed 15 Krathian vessels without provocation. Sarah stepped forward even though observers were not supposed to speak. Without provocation? Your ships threatened our colony. Your commander gave us an ultimatum to abandon a legal settlement. We defended ourselves. You defended yourselves? Thexnar's voice was deadly quiet now. You destroyed a military fleet. You killed thousands of Krathian warriors, and you dare to call that defense? Coordinator Luxiel's glowing form pulsed rapidly, a sign of agitation. The humans' weapons performance was impossible. Our scientists are analyzing the combat data. Kinetic projectiles should not have penetrated Krathian shields. The energy transfer rate exceeds all known physical models. From his seat near the back, Scoutmaster Vrick spoke up, his voice careful. If I may, Coordinator, the physics are actually quite simple. The shields were designed for energy weapons. Kinetic weapons transfer momentum differently. The humans warned us about this 18 months ago. Enough. Thexnar slammed his fist on his console. The Krathian Empire declares war on the human species. We will mobilize our full fleet. These primitives will learn their place or they will be exterminated. The speaker tried to intervene. High Counselor, perhaps diplomatic solutions. Diplomacy? Thexnar laughed bitterly. We tried diplomacy. We gave them a chance to leave peacefully. They responded with violence. The Council has two choices: support the Empire in punishing this aggression, or stand aside and let us handle it. The vote was quick. Most species abstained, not wanting to anger the powerful Krathian Empire. A few smaller species voted against military action, but their voices did not matter. The Council officially condemned human aggression and refused to intervene in the war. Sarah left the chamber knowing what was coming. She immediately contacted Earth Command. They declared war, full military mobilization. The Council won't stop them. Admiral Chen's response was calm. We expected this. All colonies are being fortified. Fleet positions are ready. How long until their main force arrives? Intelligence says 6 months. They're gathering ships from across their empire. It will be the largest Krathian fleet ever assembled. Then we have 6 months to prepare. Come home, Sarah. We need you here. 6 months later, the Krathian Armada assembled at the edge of human space. 30 warships, each one a masterpiece of military engineering. They carried enough firepower to destroy planets, crack moons, and reduce entire fleets to debris. Commander Zarthuk had survived the Battle of New Hebron by retreating quickly. Now he had been given command of the invasion fleet, with orders to make humanity regret their resistance. High Counselor Thexnar himself had come along to witness the victory. He stood on the flagship's bridge watching the tactical displays. How many human ships are defending their territory? Zarthuk checked his sensors. 3 confirmed vessels, High Counselor. The same ships from New Hebron. Thexnar's laugh was harsh. They send 3 ships against 30? Their arrogance will be their destruction. Proceed to the human colony at Proxima Threshold. We will start there and work our way to Earth itself. The Krathene fleet moved through space in perfect formation. They were confident, even after New Hebron. That battle had been a surprise, a lucky shot. This time they knew about the kinetic weapons. This time their shields would be reinforced, their spacing wider, their tactics better. Captain Rodriguez stood on the bridge of the Defiant, flanked by the Resolute and the Steadfast. Behind them, Proxima Threshold's orbital stations evacuated civilians to the planet below. He had argued against this plan. 3 ships against 30 seemed like suicide, but Admiral Chen had been certain. "Sir, enemy fleet is entering weapons range," his tactical officer reported. "They're spreading out. Looks like they learned from last time." "Good," Rodriguez said. "Let them think they adapted." "Weapons, what's the capacitor status on the new systems?" "Mark 7 railguns are at full charge, Captain. We have 12 rounds per battery." Rodriguez pulled up the tactical display. The Krathene ships were spreading into a wide formation, too far apart for a single volley to hit multiple targets. They were confident in their numbers, in their improved shields, in their certainty that they understood human weapons now. They were wrong. Humanity had spent 6 months doing what humanity did best, taking a weapon that worked and making it better. The Mark 7 railguns were twice as powerful as the Mark 5 systems used at New Hebron. They could push projectiles to 5% of light speed. The Krathene had studied old data and prepared for yesterday's weapons. "All ships target the flagships in each formation group," Rodriguez ordered. "Fire on my mark. Maximum dispersal pattern." The 3 human ships adjusted their aim. The Krathene fleet continued their approach, shields at maximum power, weapons charging. Zarthuk watched his screens confidently. In minutes they would be in optimal firing range. Then they would show these humans the price of killing Krathene warriors. "Mark," Rodriguez said quietly. The electromagnetic coils released their fury. 36 tungsten rods, each one weighing 400 kilograms, shot through space at 50,000 kilometers per second. The Krathene sensors detected them half a second before impact. Not enough time to maneuver. Not enough time to reinforce shields. Not enough time to do anything but die. The first rod hit the flagship where Thexnar stood. The improved shields held for almost 3 milliseconds before the sheer kinetic energy overwhelmed them. The rod passed through the bridge, through the command center, through the reactor containment, and continued out the other side. The ship exploded in a ball of superheated plasma. All across the Krathene fleet, ships died. The captains had spread out their formation, but they had not spread out enough. The kinetic energy from each impact sent shockwaves through nearby vessels. Debris moving at incredible speeds became secondary weapons, tearing through hulls and shields alike. In 45 seconds, 18 Krathene warships were destroyed. The remaining 12 vessels fired back, their energy weapons lancing through space toward the human ships. The human shields absorbed most of the damage, flickering but holding. The Defiant took a direct hit from a plasma cannon, and Rodriguez felt the ship shudder. "Damage report," he called out. "Forward shields at 30%. Minor hull damage on deck 3. Reload and fire again. Target the nearest vessels." The second volley finished the job. The few surviving Krathene ships, their formation shattered and their morale broken, turned and fled. Some made it to faster than light speed. Some did not. In less than 2 minutes, the largest Krathene battle fleet ever assembled had been reduced to wreckage and running survivors. Rodriguez sat back in his chair, suddenly exhausted. Around him, his crew was silent. They had won, but the magnitude of what they had done was sinking in. They had killed tens of thousands of beings. They had destroyed the pride of an empire, and they had done it with weapons the galaxy had called primitive. "Get me a line to Earth Command," Rodriguez said. "Tell them Proxima Threshold is secure. Enemy fleet destroyed." Then he opened a general broadcast on all frequencies, knowing every species in the galaxy would be listening. "This is Captain Marcus Rodriguez of the United Human Space Forces. We came to the galaxy in peace. We asked for membership, for friendship, for a chance to join the community of civilized worlds. Instead, we were mocked and attacked. We warned you about our capabilities. You chose not to listen. This war was not our choice. But if you continue it, this will be your future. Humanity will defend itself. We hope you will choose peace. But we are prepared for war." Across the galaxy, in 1,000 command centers and council chambers, military officers and politicians watched the footage of the Battle of Proxima Threshold. They watched Kratheen warships, considered invincible for centuries, torn apart by weapons that should have been obsolete. They watched 3 human ships defeat 30 enemy vessels with almost casual efficiency, and they began to understand that they had made a terrible mistake. The humans had not been boasting. They had been warning, and the warnings had come too late. The emergency session of the Galactic Council began within hours of the Battle of Proxima Threshold. This time, the chamber was filled beyond capacity. Species that rarely attended council meetings had sent representatives. Everyone wanted to understand how the humans had done the impossible. The speaker's voice was grave as he opened the session. We gather in unprecedented circumstances. The Kratheen Empire has suffered catastrophic losses. High Counselor Thexanar is dead. Their invasion fleet is destroyed. We must understand what happened and how to respond. Coordinator Luxiel's glow was dim, a sign of deep concern among the Luminari. We have analyzed the combat data extensively. The results are disturbing. Human kinetic weapons are far more effective than our models predicted. The physics are simple, but the implementation is devastating. A holographic display appeared above the chamber floor, showing the battle in detail. Species from across the galaxy watched as tungsten rods tore through Kratheen shields like they were nothing. The shocked silence was broken by nervous chittering and worried whispers. A Luminary scientist stepped forward to explain. The problem is fundamental to how we design defensive systems. For millennia, we have focused on energy weapons. Lasers, plasma cannons, graviton beams. Our shields are optimized to disperse or reflect energy. But kinetic weapons do not transfer energy the same way. They transfer momentum, mass times velocity. At relativistic speeds, even small projectiles carry enormous force. But surely there are countermeasures, someone called out. Ways to strengthen shields against kinetic impacts? The scientist's glow flickered uncertainly. Yes, but it requires completely redesigning shield systems. The energy requirements would triple, possibly quadruple. And even then, at the velocities humans achieve, nothing less than a full planetary defense grid could reliably stop their weapons. Another voice spoke up from the military section. Admiral Kresh of the Vokari Dominion, a species known for their tactical expertise. We have reviewed our own defensive capabilities. By our estimates, 87% of active military vessels in the galaxy are vulnerable to human kinetic weapons. Our shields, like the Kratheen, were never designed for this threat. The chamber erupted in panicked discussions. Species that had felt safe behind their shields for centuries suddenly realized they were exposed. The implications were staggering. Scoutmaster Vrix rose slowly from his seat. His voice was quiet, but it carried through the chamber. Honored members, I feel I must speak. 18 months ago, when the humans first presented their technology to this council, I noticed unusual energy signatures in their weapons systems. I tried to warn you, I was dismissed. The humans themselves warned you, they were mocked. High Counselor Thexnar called their weapons primitive. We did not listen. And now thousands are dead because of our arrogance. The shame in the chamber was palpable. Vrix continued, his crest fully raised in a sign of determination. I have been studying human military history. It is extensive. They have been fighting wars with kinetic weapons for thousands of years. Bullets, artillery shells, missiles. They understand kinetic warfare at a level we cannot match because we abandoned such weapons long ago. We did not see them as primitive. We saw them as experienced, and we chose to ignore that experience. Ambassador Sarah Chen had been standing silently in the observation section. Now she stepped forward. May I speak, honored council? The speaker hesitated, then nodded. The floor recognizes Ambassador Chen. Sarah looked around the chamber at the hundreds of species gathered there. You want to know how we defeated the Kratheen? It is simple. We told you the truth. We showed you our weapons. We explained their capabilities. And you laughed. You assumed that because our technology developed differently, it was inferior. That was your mistake, not ours. She pulled up her own display, showing human military installations. These are our colony defense stations. Every one of them is equipped with railgun batteries. These are our orbital platforms around Earth. More railguns. These are our shipyards. Currently building 200 new vessels, all equipped with improved kinetic weapons. We did not hide any of this. We filed the specifications with the Council 18 months ago. No one bothered to read them seriously. Coordinator Luxiel's glow brightened sharply. Are you threatening us, Ambassador? No, Sarah said firmly. I am telling you what you refused to hear before. Humanity did not want this war. We wanted peace. We wanted to trade, to share knowledge, to learn from you. But you forced us to fight. And now you are scared because you realize we are good at fighting. You should have realized that earlier. A representative from the Thex Empire, a smaller species that had long been bullied by larger powers, spoke up. Ambassador Chen, your weapons could change the balance of power in the galaxy. Would humanity be willing to share this technology with other species? Before Sarah could answer, a harsh voice interrupted. It was Acting High Counselor Vexithon, who had taken command of the Krathian forces after Thexanar's death. The humans are a threat to galactic stability. We must unite to destroy them before they become unstoppable. Several species murmured in agreement, but many more remained silent. Admiral Kresh stood again. Acting High Counselor, with respect, your empire started this war. The humans defended themselves. They have proven they can destroy our fleets. If we attack them now, how many more will die? Vexthon's scales flushed dark with rage. Cowards, all of you. The Krathian Empire will not forget this betrayal. But his words rang hollow. Everyone in the chamber knew the Krathian military had been shattered. They no longer had the power to threaten anyone, let alone humanity. Over the next weeks, the political situation shifted dramatically. The Varex Union, tired of Krathian intimidation, opened diplomatic channels with humanity. The Thex Empire quickly followed. Even the Luminary Collective, despite their pride, sent scientific delegations to study human technology. They were particularly interested in how humans had achieved such high velocities with electromagnetic acceleration. Sarah found herself meeting with dozens of ambassadors every day. Some wanted alliances, some wanted technology transfers. Some simply wanted to ensure they would not be humanity's next target. She handled each meeting with the same message. Humanity wanted peace but would not be pushed around. Scoutmaster Vrix met with her privately one evening. They sat in the human embassy, sharing drinks from their respective worlds. You were right to be angry, Vrix said quietly. We did not listen. Many good beings died because of that. Sarah sighed. I take no pleasure in being right. We never wanted to prove our weapons in combat, but the Council left us no choice. What will humanity do now? Vrix asked. You have shown your strength. Will you seek revenge? Conquest? Sarah looked at him seriously. We will do what we said we would do 18 months ago. We will build our colonies. We will trade with those who want to trade. We will defend ourselves if attacked. But we will not become conquerors. Earth learned that lesson long ago. Empires built on force eventually collapse. Vrix's crest rose in what passed for a smile among his people. I hope the rest of the galaxy learns that lesson as well. I have been appointed as the Council's new military threat assessment advisor. My first recommendation is that we actually listen when species tell us about their capabilities. Back in the Council chamber, emergency sessions continued for weeks. New military doctrines were written. Shield technology research was redirected toward kinetic defense. Trade agreements were rewritten to account for humanity's new status. The entire political landscape of the galaxy was being redrawn. But the most significant change was not technological or political. It was psychological. The great powers of the galaxy had been humbled. They had learned that technological superiority was not the same as strategic superiority. They had learned that dismissing others as primitive was dangerous. They had learned that warnings ignored become lessons written in blood. The Krathian Empire, once proud and aggressive, was forced to accept peace terms. They withdrew from human space, paid reparations for the attack on New Hebron, and began the slow process of rebuilding their fleet with new defensive systems. Acting High Counselor Vexthan was replaced by a more moderate leader who understood that the old ways of conquest and intimidation no longer worked. Humanity was granted full council membership with a permanent seat on the Security Council. No one voted against it. No one dared. And across the galaxy, in every military academy and strategic planning center, a new doctrine was added to the curriculum. It was called the Human Doctrine, and its core principle was simple. Never assume primitive means ineffective. Always take warnings seriously. And never ever start a war with an enemy you do not fully understand. The galaxy had learned its lesson. But the cost had been high, and the lessons had come far too late. 3 months after the Battle of Proxima Threshold, the galaxy was still adjusting to its new reality. The Galactic Council had reformed its military advisory board. New defensive technologies were being developed across dozens of worlds, and humanity was finally being taken seriously. But not everyone was ready to accept peace. In a hidden base far from the major trade routes, a coalition of hardline military officers from 7 different species gathered. They represented the old guard, those who believed in military dominance and viewed humanity's rise as a threat to the natural order. Commander Drath, a Krathian officer who had served under Thexnar, addressed the group. The council has become weak. They bowed to the humans out of fear. But fear is not respect. We represent species with proud military traditions. Are we to simply accept that these newcomers can dictate terms to us? Avorian General nodded his massive head. The humans had luck. They caught us unprepared. But we have studied their weapons now. We know their limitations. A coordinated strike could cripple their military infrastructure before they can respond. In the Galactic Council chamber, Ambassador Sarah Chen was participating in her first official vote as a full member. The matter was routine. A trade agreement between the Varix Union and the Thex Empire. She voted in favor and the measure passed. It felt strange to have a voice that mattered after so long as an observer. After the session, Scoutmaster Vrix approached her. Ambassador, I need to speak with you privately. It is urgent. They moved to a secure room. Vrix pulled up intelligence reports on his datapad. We have intercepted communications suggesting a hardline coalition is planning an attack on human colonies. They believe they can win if they strike hard enough, fast enough. Sarah felt her stomach tighten. How many ships? 40 vessels from 7 species. They plan to hit New Hebron and 2 other colonies simultaneously. They want to prove that the previous defeats were luck, not skill. Sarah immediately contacted Admiral Rodriguez, who was now overseeing all human military operations. Admiral, we have intelligence about an imminent attack. Multiple targets. I am sending the data now. Rodriguez reviewed the information quickly. These are hardliners from species that lost face when the Krathian were defeated. They think they have adapted to our tactics. Let them come. We will show them they have adapted to yesterday's weapons, not today's. The hardline coalition fleet assembled in secret, then jumped to faster than light speed toward human space. They were confident. They had studied the battles at New Hebron and Proxima Threshold. They had improved their shield systems, added kinetic dampeners, and planned their approach vectors to minimize exposure to railgun fire. They had learned from the Krathian mistakes. What they did not know was that humanity had not been idle either. The Mark 7 railguns were already outdated. Human engineers had developed Mark 8 and Mark 9 systems. They had added coil gun arrays that could fire smaller projectiles at even higher velocities. They had built mass driver stations on asteroids that could launch multi-ton projectiles across entire star systems. And they had developed new targeting systems that could predict ship movements with frightening accuracy. The coalition fleet dropped out of faster-than-light travel near New Hebron, spread out in a careful formation designed to minimize casualties from kinetic weapons. Commander Drath watched his screens confidently. All ships advance on the colony. Maintain defensive spacing. Prepare for kinetic weapon. He never finished the sentence. The human defense fleet was not where he expected. Instead of guarding the colony directly, they had positioned themselves between the coalition fleet and the planet, at an angle that gave them perfect firing solutions. Admiral Rodriguez, commanding from the UHSV Defiant, gave the order, all ships fire. Show them what the Mark 9 can do. The new generation of human weapons fired not single projectiles but swarms of them, smaller tungsten rods, hundreds per volley, traveling at 7% of light speed. The coalition ships tried to evade, but the targeting computers had already calculated their possible movements. The improved kinetic dampeners on their shields helped, but only marginally. The sheer number of impacts overwhelmed their defenses. In 90 seconds, 20 coalition ships were destroyed or disabled. The remaining vessels returned fire, their energy weapons and missiles filling space with destructive force. But human ships had also improved their shields, learning from luminary technology traded in recent diplomatic agreements. The combined shields held better than the coalition expected. Commander Drath, his ship heavily damaged, made a desperate decision. All ships, emergency faster-than-light retreat. Retreat now. The coalition fleet scattered, jumping to faster-than-light speed in random directions. Only 17 of the 40 ships made it out. The rest were destroyed or surrendered. The entire attack had lasted less than 3 minutes. Rodriguez opened a transmission to the surrendering vessels. Coalition forces, power down your weapons and prepare to be boarded. You will be treated according to the laws of war and returned to your governments. But understand this. Every time you attack us, we get better at defending ourselves. Every time you study our weapons, we develop new ones. You cannot win this way. The surviving coalition officers were returned to their respective governments, where they faced military tribunals for their unauthorized attack. The incident sent a clear message across the galaxy. Attacking humanity was not just dangerous, it was foolish. The humans were not standing still. They were constantly improving, constantly innovating, constantly preparing for the next threat. 5 years passed. The galaxy changed in ways no one had predicted. Human technology became highly sought after, not just weapons, but the engineering principles behind them. Human scientists collaborated with luminary researchers on new propulsion systems. Human military advisors trained mixed-species defense forces in kinetic warfare tactics. Human merchants established trade routes that connected species who had never interacted before. The Crethine Empire, humbled but not destroyed, became one of humanity's unlikely trading partners. They had resources humanity needed, and humanity had technology they wanted. Former enemies learned to work together. The new High Counselor of the Crethine even attended the dedication ceremony, when humans built a memorial for the Crethine warriors who died at Proxima Threshold. Ambassador Sarah Chen, now serving her 5th year on the Galactic Council, stood at that ceremony. She watched as human and Crethine children played together in the memorial gardens. "Who would have thought?" she said quietly to Scoutmaster Vrix, who stood beside her. Vrix's crest rose in his version of a smile. "You fought for peace even while preparing for war. That is rare. Most species choose one or the other." "We learned that lesson the hard way on Earth," Sarah replied. "Peace requires strength, but strength without wisdom leads to tyranny. We have been both the conqueror and the conquered in our history. We try to remember both sides." The Galactic Military Academy on Luminara Prime now had a human wing. Admiral Rodriguez, who had retired from active service, taught advanced tactics there. His students came from 30 different species, all eager to learn from the veteran who had revolutionized galactic warfare. In one of his lectures, a young Crethine cadet asked the question that still bothered many. "Admiral, why did the galaxy not see the threat of kinetic weapons? We had access to the same physics you did." Rodriguez smiled. "You saw the physics, but you did not see the context. You had forgotten what it meant to fight with kinetic weapons because you had moved beyond them so long ago. But humans never forgot. We spent centuries perfecting the art of throwing things at each other very, very fast. When we reached the stars, we simply kept doing what we knew how to do well. The lesson is not about kinetic weapons specifically. The lesson is about assumptions. Never assume your way is the only way. Never dismiss someone because they do things differently." Another cadet, this one from the Thex Empire, asked, "What if another species comes along with weapons we do not understand? What if we make the same mistake again?" "Then we listen when they warn us," Rodriguez said firmly. "We analyze their capabilities honestly. We treat them with respect. That is why Scoutmaster Vrix's position exists now. That is why first contact protocols have been completely rewritten. The galaxy paid a high price to learn this lesson. The question is whether it will remember." On Earth, in the capital city of the United Human Government, children studied galactic history in school. They learned about the mistakes humanity made in its early days, about the wars that nearly destroyed their civilization, about the slow process of learning to work together, and they learned about humanity's arrival in the galaxy, about the warnings that were ignored, about the battles that should never have happened. One teacher asked her class a question. "Why do you think the galaxy did not listen to our warnings?" A young girl raised her hand. "Because they thought they were better than us?" "Partly," the teacher agreed. "But also because listening is hard. It is easier to assume you know everything. It is more comfortable to dismiss new ideas than to consider them seriously. Remember that. When you meet someone different from you, someone who does things in ways you do not understand, do not laugh. Ask questions, learn, that is how we survive."